Hi, my name's Eric Horschman. I'm with VMware as our product marketing director for Azure VMware Solution, and I'll be talking today about the latest highlights for Azure VMware Solution with my colleague from Microsoft, Joe Sarabia. Joe, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Sarabia. I'm a principal TPM manager, part of the AVS product group, and look forward to telling you more today.
So as I mentioned, we're going to quickly review the highlights from the latest enhancements that VMware and Microsoft have delivered for Azure VMware Solution. I want to start off with our region coverage. So Microsoft has enabled Azure VMware Solution now in 24 of their Azure regions worldwide. The most recently added was the Sweden Central region. We've also got a broad set of certifications that Azure VMware Solution inherits from Azure, and that includes some certifications that are important to customers in international locations in certain industries. Some of the most recently added were for the financial and government certifications in Australia and Singapore. We're very pleased to announce that Azure VMware Solution is now certified with the latest components of the VMware software stack. So the entire Azure VMware Solution fleet is now running on vSphere 7. All new customer deployments are going on to vSphere 7 Update 3C. We're running with NSXT version 3.1.2 and Site Recovery Manager 8.5. And also, it's important to point out that the HCX product that is bundled with Azure VMware Solution for migrations and network extensions is available from Microsoft also in the Enterprise Edition version if you make that request to Microsoft. So that will elevate you from the advanced version that comes with default to the enterprise version and some important features like mobility optimized networking and mobility groups. vSphere 7 brings with it some important enhancements. One of the key areas is around vMotion improvements. So we've improved performance with vMotion. We've made a major change where we're using memory tracking in a single virtual CPU rather than imposing that CPU consumption on every virtual CPU. By doing that, we've improved the speed of vMotion, reduced its impact on application performance. The stun time, or the brief interval where networking is not working on a virtual machine, has been reduced to milliseconds. So even the most sensitive applications are now candidates for vMotion on Azure VMware Solution with vSphere 7. vSphere 7 also improves networking performance and scalability, which is important with Azure VMware Solution because it provides high-speed 25 gigabit per second network connections. So we can take full advantage of that to improve vMotion performance. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Eric. So I want to talk a little bit about the different host types that we currently have available in AVS. There's the three that you see here. AV36 is the most prevalent and the SKU that we launched with and is most broadly available in our regions. More recently, we've added both AV36P and AV52 with limited availability. For AV36P, you'll note that there is an upgrade to the processor family, now Cascade Lake, and a slight bump up in the processor speed with increased memory and some increased capacity. On the AV52 side, this is also Cascade Lake, more cores in this particular SKU, more memory. So this is the higher memory, higher storage option, noting the 38.4 terabytes of raw capacity per node for AV52. And if we move to the next slide, we can talk about what this looks like from a scaling and maximum perspective. So across the top, these numbers are the existing scaling maximums, really no change there. There's a minimum of 3 hosts per cluster, up to a maximum of 16 hosts per cluster. And we support up to 96 hosts in a single private cloud. Also, so we support 12 clusters per private cloud. And those could have a mix and match of different hosts inside of each cluster, up to 16 per cluster and up to the 96 in private cloud. What we've shown across the bottom here is those 3 different SKUs and showing what it looks like in aggregate at different step points of cluster size, or private cloud size, that will indicate the total CPU, RAM, and storage capacity based on those particular SKUs. And you can see across the bottom there and map to, depending on your type of scale, the solution that works best for you. All right, next slide, please. Simplified internet connectivity options is an option that we have provided a little bit earlier this year. And this was fundamentally about clarifying how you can approach your outbound connectivity to the internet from your private cloud. So this used to be in different parts of the interface. Now we have a single internet connectivity page under workload networking on the left tab. And we've clarified some of the description here. So the first 2 options, these were existing from about the time that we've launched, or at least some period of time, where you could basically have no outbound connectivity, or at least use a default route that you're getting from Azure that could come from a variety of places. The other option that we had that was pre-existing was connecting using SNAT, or a source NAT network address translation option. So this is like a highly managed option. There's not a lot of configuration that you can do to that one. But what it allows you to do is to have that outbound connectivity via SNAT. The new option that we have here is the NSXT Edge. And so this is a new feature as of fairly recently, a little bit earlier this year. And this option allows you to basically take a public IP and connect it all the way down to your NSXT edge. There's some constraints that are noted there. And this opens up a variety of use cases depending on what you're looking to accomplish. This is something that we heard pretty extensively from customers that they had demand for. And so that's now supported in your private clouds. If we move to the next slide, there's a little bit more about how public IP to NSX works. And what we have on the left here are different components that could be comprised in your AVS solution, and just showing overall. We have our Azure region, we have an AVS private cloud in the middle. The private cloud can connect out through the edge, the NSXT edge device, and then out to the internet, as well as to these other components. And typically through an Azure VNet over an ExpressRoute gateway and ExpressRoute circuit to your customer data center. One of the use cases that we heard for this from customers was having more direct internet access at scale. So you can reserve 1,000 or more public IPs for your inbound and outbound connections. Also DDoS protection. It gives you DDoS protection point at the NSXT edge if desired. And it also gives you the edge as a termination point, depending on what you're trying to do. So one of the things that we heard from customers here was, historically, there are certain cases where customers want to make, say, an HCX connection over the internet instead of over, say, like an ExpressRoute link. And this option with public IP, or this feature with public IP, gives you that option with HCX if so desired. Okay, next slide, please. Right, something in public preview that we're excited to talk about is Azure NetApp Files. And Azure NetApp Files is a service that exists inside of Azure already. And what we've done is we're providing a capability for customers to attach as external storage to their AVS environments, Azure NetApp Files volumes. So this gives you the ability to scale your external storage independently from your private cloud. So now you have a few more options to be able to do that while getting the benefits that you get from ANF, Azure NetApp Files, such as performance, scalability, and advanced data management. Okay. And the last thing that we want to talk about is customer managed keys. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that we've got an AVS private cloud, and we have an Azure Key Vault. And we use Azure Key Vault today to handle the encryption of your vCN data stores. And historically, this has been platform managed. So what customer managed keys provides is it's the ability for now customers to manage that, right? So you can protect your data at rest and give you the ability to bring your own customer managed keys through a customer owned Azure Key Vault instead of the Azure Key Vault historically managed by the service. It also allows you to revoke access at any time. So you can remove the Azure VMware Solutions access to your customer owned Key Vault if you want to do that. And if you did, it would make it impossible for the service to read any data inside of the private cloud. So now it's something that you own the connection for. Rotation of encryption keys can be done inside of the Azure Key Vault based upon a customer's compliance requirements and their compliance policies. And this is one of the primary use cases that we heard from customers when asking for customer managed keys. And an important note about customer managed keys is that it supports standard, premium, and managed HSM tiers in your Azure Key Vault that you as a customer manage as part of this solution. Okay.
All right, thanks, Joe. I want to brief you on some of the new VMware attached services that we've added recently to Azure VMware Solution. So our attached services are VMware products or services that we've jointly certified with Azure VMware Solution, working with Microsoft. And as you see here, we've added to the vRealize cloud management family with support for vRealize Log Insight Cloud, also our VMware Cloud Director service, and I'll go into some detail on that. In the last year, we added support for Tanzu application service from our Tanzu family for application modernization. And VMware has also added support for what we call cross-cloud DR, where we're enabling Azure VMware Solution through Site Recovery Manager to pair with VMware Cloud on AWS using VMware Site Recovery, and you can bidirectionally protect workloads between those two different cloud platforms. So that's attractive to customers for a number of reasons and provides a especially high level of assurance for your workloads. Some detail on Log Insight Cloud. Log Insight Cloud is a VMware SaaS service that collects log data from your virtual machines, your applications, your physical devices, cloud resources, analyzes that log data, visualizes it, and helps you sort through the huge volumes of log data that are otherwise very difficult to interpret, so that you can spot issues that require attention by your system administrators and operators. With Log Insight Cloud operating as a software as a service deployment, you can now connect an AVS SDDC to Log Insight Cloud and feed log data into Log Insight Cloud, where it goes through that interpretation and visualization, and is also combined with log data from a number of other sources, such as on-premises VMware vSphere nodes, other cloud services, such as Google or Amazon's cloud, native cloud instances and virtual machines, and cloud services, applications that run natively in those cloud services. Log Insight Cloud is able to understand and interpret all those different log sources, so it can act as a single point of visualization for responding to issues that come in through log data that would otherwise be like looking for a needle in a haystack for your administrators. Log Insight Cloud can make it easy to spot those important issues that require attention. VMware Cloud Director service allows you to subdivide your resources and allocate them to tenants so they can operate in a self-service fashion, but stay isolated from one another, not stepping on one another's toes by consuming resources allocated to a neighboring tenant. Cloud Director Service is also a software as a service deployment from VMware. AVS enterprise customers can use Cloud Director Service to divide their users into tenant groups, keeping them isolated from one another and giving slices of the AVS SDDCs to each one of those tenants. But they can operate in a self-service fashion, but stay isolated from one another. There are two use cases that we are supporting with Cloud Director Service. The first would be a all enterprise use case. That is, a single enterprise is the subscriber to Azure VMware Solution. They're also the subscriber to VMware Cloud Director Service, which they use to self-manage their own internal tenant groups. The other use case we're supporting with Cloud Director Service and Azure VMware Solution is one where an enterprise is a subscriber to Azure VMware Solution, but they'd like to outsource the management of their internal tenants to a service provider. And that service provider can be the subscriber to Cloud Director Service and provide that tenant management function. And then in closing, we made a big announcement before our recent VMware Explorer event in San Francisco, where Azure VMware Solution will be joining our VMware Cloud Universal program, which lets customers purchase cloud subscription credits and apply those now to Azure VMware Solution. So we'll be rolling that out and enabling customers to use VMware Cloud Universal credits to purchase Azure VMware Solution in the near future. So stay tuned for that development. It increases flexibility for our customers to make purchasing plans that can be flexibly applied to multiple cloud resources, including in the near-term future, Azure VMware Solution. So that's a big development. So with that, Joe and I have gone through our material. I'd like to thank you for joining us and hope you all have a great experience with Ignite 2022. Thanks very much, Joe.
Yep, thank you, Eric.